Friday, January 17th, 2025. We welcome you into today's edition of The Lunch Break. Chris Schubert here with you for the next 2 hours, getting you set for everything going on this weekend. Divisional round of the NFL playoffs, so it's a football Friday. We've got picks to make here on the show. We'll preview all 4 games this weekend. We will continue our discussion about the Cardinals' offseason, but we start where we always start. At least that's the way it feels this time of year.
Time for our top story of the day. It's the Daily Special.
I'm not going to be this guy, okay? I'm not going to do it. It is a Friday. You're excited. You're excited about a long weekend. You're excited about whatever weekend plans you have. I am not going to be the guy that starts your weekend off by trying to convince you that the Suns did not win last night. They won the basketball game 130-123. They got a win on this road trip. They did what we asked them to do. We said, hey, can you beat the Washington Wizards? Can you beat a team that is now 6-33? They were 6-32 going into last night's contest. Could you do that? Could you win this basketball game? They did that. So I am not going to be that guy that said, oh, they won, but they really lost. But what else did we ask for yesterday? What did we say this game was the perfect opportunity for? This was the perfect opportunity to play a bad basketball team, to blow them out, to put the game on cruise control, and not have to worry about it in the second half. That's what we asked yesterday. We said, could you do that for us? You're playing the Washington Wizards, who are 6-32. I know that your team is in a state of flux right now. You're trying to find that consistency, but this is a bad basketball team. You're making moves to try to save your season. Give us this. Take care of business in this basketball game. And I'll tell you, looked like they were going to do it. Jump out to an early 13-point lead at the end of the first quarter. And I told you yesterday at the end of the show, I had about an hour of the game that I could watch before I was going to coach practice, and then I was going to follow up with the game later on that evening. And that first hour, you're feeling pretty good about what you're seeing. A team that takes a 13-point lead. The lead gets as big as 24 throughout the course of the game. And yet what happened? A 24-point lead evaporates. And it becomes as little as 3 points. The Washington Wizards, who are 6-32, cut a 24-point lead for the Phoenix Suns down to 3 late in that basketball game. And the Suns survive a scare to get out of there with a 7-point victory. So I'm not going to be the guy to tell you that that win doesn't count or that it's just as bad as a loss. I'm not going to do that. They won the basketball game. They're 20-20. But if you don't feel all that great today about the Phoenix Suns, I don't blame you. If you woke up today saying, that win, even though it got us closer to 500, doesn't make me feel great about where this team is going, doesn't make me think that they've turned a corner, doesn't give me a lot of confidence going into playing Detroit and Cleveland next up on this road trip, I can't blame you one bit. How can you watch that basketball game last night and watch this team collapse in the second half, collapse in the fourth quarter, and watch a 24-point lead? It was right there for you. It's one thing if the game is competitive the whole time. It's one thing if just for whatever reason you didn't bring your A-plus game that evening and it's a close game for 4 quarters. If this was a 130-123 victory that was back and forth for 4 quarters, we're not coming with this type of energy today. You had a 24-point lead in that game last night, and it got evaporated down to 3. And the Washington Wizards did that to you. You had the golden chance. You didn't have Bradley Beal last night. You had Kevin Durant, you had Devin Booker, and you needed other pieces to step up. You needed other players to step up. And they did that. We're going to talk about one of those players today here on the show that stepped up for the Phoenix Suns last night. And yet, when you had the chance to put the game on cruise control, when you had a chance for the first time in what feels like forever to have that nice, easy start to finish, no concerns, really just a run-of-the-mill basketball game that we don't necessarily have to lead the show with, that we don't have to break down from all the angles, just a nice take-care-of-business victory start to finish. That's what you had. You had that, and then you blew it. You let that slip through your grasp last night. So we can talk about Devin Booker and his third straight 30-point game. We can talk about Kevin Durant and his 23 points. We can talk about what Ryan Dunn did, what Grayson Allen did, what Tyus Jones did. We can talk about how the Suns have won 5 of 7. We can talk about how they're 5-2 since this move. And I know Bradley Beal didn't play last night, but they're 5-2 since the date that they moved Bradley Beal to the bench. We could talk about all of that. I watched the team blow a 24-point lead, shrink it all the way down to 3 points, and have to survive against a 6-32 basketball team. Why should I all of a sudden think that when Nick Richards joins this team this weekend, and they play Detroit, and they play Cleveland, and then they come back from this road trip, and they play the Clippers, and they play the Timberwolves, I think they have Denver coming up on the schedule as well. What about last night's game tells you that when they play better competition, that they're not in for trouble? What? How do you feel better about the Phoenix Suns? Yeah, they won a basketball game. They're back to 500. We're about to reach the midway point with this next game. And listen, we could get to them coming back from this road trip, and they could be exactly where we asked them to be. Above 500, a 3-2 road trip, that is all still possible. It's a 1-1 start. And so they can still achieve that goal. But, man, I don't know how you feel a little uneasy after what you saw last night, because it was right there for you. It wasn't like they had to scratch and claw for the 7-point victory. They were up 24 points, and they couldn't hold on. They couldn't keep that lead where it was so that Budenholzer could empty the bench, because you've got Detroit coming up. You've got Cleveland coming up. You're in the middle of a road trip. Wouldn't it have been nice last night to maybe be able to take your foot off the gas and decrease the minutes that some of your top players are playing? Wouldn't it have been nice to not have to play Devin Booker 39 minutes last night because you have a 24-point lead? Wouldn't it have been nice for Kevin Durant, who's in his mid-30s, to not play 33 minutes? And by the way, a game that you led by 24 points. Wouldn't it have been nice to maybe not have Tyus Jones and Ryan Dunn play in the 30s? Wouldn't it have been nice to get other players involved, get guys more minutes, Monte Morris maybe some more minutes? Oso, maybe you could give him an extended run. This is a chance, right? We talked about the new center rotation for this team, and he played 21 minutes last night. Wouldn't it have been nice if you could have given him more minutes to help his development because you had the game in hand? That's what that opportunity was missed last night. So you won the basketball game. You got back to 500. Those are all good things. But you missed an opportunity last night. You missed a chance to let your foot off the gas and just breathe a little bit, because you're going to need that extra gas in the tank when you play Detroit, a young upstart team that causes teams fits. You're going to need that when you take on the Cleveland Cavaliers, the best team in the Eastern Conference. That's where you're going to need the extra gas in the tank. And when you had an opportunity to refuel the reserves, you screwed it up. You blew a 24-point lead. It got cut down to 3, and you had to survive against the Washington Wizards. That's it. That's what last night boils down to. It boils down to a missed opportunity in what has felt like a season of missed opportunities. The Memphis game, the game in Charlotte on the back-to-back, over and over and over again this season, missed opportunities. The Phoenix Suns might be the only team that have won 5 of their last 7, and it doesn't feel like they've won 5 of their last 7. Do you feel like this team is 5-2 in their last 7 games? Do you feel like this team has turned a corner? Do you feel any of that today? Do you feel like you watched a basketball team last night that is going to reach the postseason and make noise in the postseason? Is that what you felt watching them blow that lead to the Washington Wizards last night? I know I certainly didn't. And you had it there right in front of you. You had it. The end of the first quarter, you were up 13. It had all the makings of a game where you could have let your foot off the gas. You had a 14-point lead going into the half. You had a 21-point lead going into the fourth quarter. 21 points. You outscored them 34-21 in the first quarter, so you're up 13. You outscored them by 14-point lead going into halftime. What do you do coming out of the second half? Because that's where you're going to get. That's where you're going to get the counter, right? They're going to be able to go in potentially, make some adjustments, and that might be the last energy you get from them. What did you do in the third quarter? You outscored them by 7. A 21-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And you allow 40 fourth-quarter points from the Washington Wizards last night. You allow them to bring the lead all the way back from 24-3. What are you supposed to say with that? What am I supposed to do with that today? I'm sorry. I'm not going to give it back. I'm not going to give the win back to the NBA. I'm not going to say, please give the game to the Washington Wizards. They deserve the win. We don't. That's not what I'm doing here today. But guess what? When you have a team with Kevin Durant, when you have a team with Devin Booker, when you have a team that is spending these types of resources, that is investing this heavily in their team, they're a second apron team, You put these types of expectations where, you know what? I can be a little upset when you have a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter and you watch it evaporate. When you had an opportunity to let your foot off the gas, you didn't. You're allowed to be upset about that today. So we're not giving the win back. The Phoenix Suns are 20-20. They've won 5 of their last 7. We are not giving the game back to the NBA. But you know what? I don't know how you feel good about the team after last night. I don't know how you feel like when they walk into Detroit. Because let's face it, this stretch that they've been on where they're 5-2 in their last 7, who have they played? They're a mess. They're a mess. You split with them. Atlanta, they're basically what you are. You split with them. You beat Washington, Utah, one of the worst teams in the Western. Who did you beat? So you've done this against the softer part of your schedule. This is what you're supposed to do. And last night, you're supposed to have a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter, and you should be able to sit Devin Booker and sit Kevin Durant and not play those guys a ton of minutes and not, at the end of the day, have Devin Booker play nearly 40 minutes. You didn't have that chance last night. Missed opportunity. 480-864-1060. Would love to hear from you on the Suns last night. Do you feel any differently? Did last night, are you as hot about this as I am? That you blow a 24-point lead, you see it evaporate to 3. These are the things that, yes, it's a win. Yes, it got you back into a playoff spot, back to 500. But if they get tired in Detroit or tired against Cleveland because they're going all out in these games where you shouldn't have to do that, that's where now you drop a game that you really need to have. So 480-864-1060. We'd love to hear from you today on the show. Also, the KDUS AM 1060 YouTube channel as well. The live stream over there. You can hop in the live chat and share your opinions there as well. Coming up on the other side of the break, Corbin Burns introduced this week for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and it left me wondering this question. Do we realize how good the Diamondbacks are this season? That's next on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back into the lunch break. 15 minutes from now, the NFL Look Ahead will preview all 4 of the divisional round games, and I will try my best to not give away my selections for the Schubert 6 in hour number 2. This will make our 4 picks in the second hour of the show. But Corbin Burns introduced as the member of the Arizona Diamondbacks this week. We spent, I believe it was yesterday's show, talking about how you should be doing cartwheels to work. You should be chomping at the bit for the baseball season to start for this team. The excitement level that I think is there because Corbin Burns is with this team, because of the moves that they have made so far, because of the investment that is being made by the front office and the ownership into this team. And I want to take that a step further here today because I know last year was a disappointment. Coming off of a World Series appearance, coming off of being National League champions, the expectations couldn't have been higher. The idea being get back to the playoffs, get back to the postseason. You never know what's going to happen when you get there. They went on a miracle run in the first place to get to the World Series. That could always happen again. Put yourself in a position to be one of the teams dancing at the end of the year. And the Diamondbacks fell just short of that. They won 89 games, and they were eliminated on the last day of the season. In fact, it was the day after the official end of the regular season because the Braves and Mets had to play a doubleheader on a Monday to determine who was going to be in and who wasn't. So when the regular season officially ended in Major League Baseball on that Sunday, the Diamondbacks still alive in the playoff race. It took that extra day for things to be determined, things to be decided. That's how close the Diamondbacks were to going back. 89 wins, nearly a 90-win season. And I told you that I think it was an overachievement to be at 89 wins, to nearly have a 90-win season when you consider everything that the team went through this past year. Corbin Carroll having just a downright terrible season. He was not very good. He struggled. He was fighting it all year long. Your rotation, guys are in and out all year long. You had zero stability in your rotation. Eugenio Suarez, at one point we were determining whether or not he was going to need to be cut from the team, and then he found it in the second half. You name it, it was a problem for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And if you don't get consistent starting pitching, and if one of your star players, who really is the catalyst to everything, Corbin Carroll gets on base, hits doubles, hits home runs, steals bases, he's a run creator. And so if he's not getting on base, if he's not setting the table at the top of the lineup, it's hard. And oh, by the way, the Diamondbacks still had one of the best offenses in all of baseball with all of those struggles. And so now you lead into this season, and I'm here to tell you, I don't know if we realize just how good this Diamondbacks team is and how good they could be next season. Major League Baseball and MLB Network are doing their top 10 for every position right now. And they've gone through, not all of them, but they've gone through a couple of them. Starting pitchers, relievers, second baseman, third baseman, catcher, center fielders. They're going through a bunch of them. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, but I wrote down so far where the Diamondbacks have been on a couple of these positions. They have a top 10 starting pitcher in Corbin Burns, who's 6th overall. 6th best starting pitcher for this season, according to MLB Network. And there's a fan vote, and there's some analysts who vote, and it all gets put together into these rankings. Corbin Burns, 6th overall, top 10 starter. They also have a top 10 second baseman, Ketel Marte, who is the number 1 second baseman in all of baseball, according to MLB Network. They have a top 10 third baseman, Eugenio Suarez, 10th overall. Think about that for a second. For how bad the first half of the year was, Eugenio Suarez is still a top 10 third baseman in all of baseball. And they also have a top 10 catcher in Gabby Moreno, 7th overall. So going into the season, you are top 10, not just in the National League, but in all of baseball. You have a top 10 catcher. You have a top 10 second baseman. You have a top 10 third baseman. So your offense, a top 10 catcher, a top 10 second baseman, a top 10 third baseman, a center fielder who we know what his statistics can look like when everything is right. So obviously not represented well right now because of the struggles that he had, but you know he could be a top 10 center fielder, and he has been a top 10 center fielder in the past. You have Josh Naylor, who is, I think, underrated. I think this fan base, you guys are going to love him by the time the season begins. This guy, 30 home run power. He plays with some swag. Go look at when he was with the Guardians and the antics that he had against the Yankees in the playoffs a few years ago. This is going to be, I think, a cult hero, a fan favorite very, very quickly. And I know the loss of Christian Walker stings, but I think Josh Naylor is going to bring some swag and also bring some power. So you're not terrible there. Shortstop, left field, right field, DH. Some of the other positions where they're not at least top 10 right now, but we'll see when these lists come out. The Diamondbacks have a really good offense. They have one of the best rotations in all of baseball. Corbin Burns, a top 10 pitcher in all of baseball. Zach Allen, probably not that far behind. Merrill Kelly, underrated, not talked about enough. Brendan Pfaadt, a nice young pitcher that if he's the 4th guy in your rotation, you're eating pretty well. You're pretty happy with that. Ryan Nelson, Eduardo Rodriguez, Jordan Montgomery filling out the fifth spot, the back end of this rotation. You've got the starting pitching that you need. You've got the starting pitching that you lacked last season to go with an offense that has a top 10 second baseman, a top 10 third baseman, a top 10 catcher. And we have not talked about Josh Naylor, and we haven't talked about what Corbin Carroll can bring to the table. So, yes, you lost Jock Peterson. Yes, you lost Christian Walker. But the way you've gone about replacing them, by bringing in Josh Naylor, by landing Corbin Burns to help your rotation to give that more stability. Again, they won 89 games with a roster that isn't as good as this year's roster, that isn't as healthy as this year's roster. And so if they won 89 games a year ago, if last year, with Zach Gallen missing time, with Merrill Kelly missing nearly half the season, Eduardo Rodriguez not starting the year with the team and it taking months upon months for him to return to the rotation. If Jordan Montgomery didn't start the year with the team, made a couple of starts in the leagues before coming up to the big league level. Think of everything that happened last year to that rotation. You've gotten healthier. You've gotten better with the addition of Corbin Burns. And so if you're able to have a similar offense to the offense that you had a year ago, and you're able to have the health luck go your way this year, why is 92 to 96 wins not on the table for this team? You have a little worry about the bullpen, but give it time. There's still the whole rest of the offseason, and I think there's a move coming. And oh, by the way, they did the top 10 relief pitchers, and Kirby Yates was one of the top 10 relief pitchers, and Kirby Yates has been somewhat linked to the Arizona Diamondbacks. There was a story in The Athletic that predicted where the rest of the free agents that were still out there were going to sign, and Kirby Yates was linked to the Diamondbacks in that story. So they could potentially add a top 10 reliever to one of the best young relievers in the game in Justin Martinez. And, oh, yeah, A.J. Puck, who was fantastic since coming over from the Miami Marlins in the trade last year. So then you have a 7th, 8th, and 9. And truly, any one of those three guys could be in any inning, any role, and you would feel pretty comfortable. You wouldn't be on the edge of your seat biting your nails waiting for those 9 outs. You'd feel really good about whoever's in that spot. So you might add all these top 10s that we're talking about. You might also add a top 10 reliever here at some point, because Tanner Scott's on that list, who's a free agent. Kirby Yates is a free agent. The Diamondbacks are going to be swimming in those waters here at some point. So there's a chance that you're also going to add a top 10 reliever. So I know the Dodgers are the big bad Dodgers. And I know they have Freddie Freeman, and I know they have Shohei Ohtani, and I know they have Mookie Betts, and I know what their rotation looks like, and I know it's probably going to add Roki Sasaki, and I know what the Padres are all about, and I know the Giants are spending this offseason. I get all of that. Diamondbacks won 89 games last year with a roster that isn't as good as this year's roster. That isn't as capable as this year's roster. And so if you don't set the expectations, if you don't set the bar of getting back to the playoffs and being a 90-win baseball team, which this team very much has the capability and the talent to do so, this is the year. Most money they've ever spent on a team. They've got great players across the board. They have the best second baseman in all of baseball. They have a top 10 starting pitcher. I think they have 2 top 10 starting pitchers. If I was making this list, Corbin Burns and Zach Gallen, those would be 2 of my 10. So you might have 2 of the top 10, top 15, top 20 starting pitchers in all of baseball. You have the best second baseman in all of baseball. You have one of the best third basemen in all of baseball. You have one of the top 8 catchers in all of baseball. I mean, you start looking around the rest of the league, how many other rosters have that? Now, unfortunately, you're in a division that has a team or 2 that might have that, but you are up there. You are one of the top 10 teams in baseball going into this season. If we were power ranking the top 10 teams in Major League Baseball going into next year, the Diamondbacks are on that list. Look around the National League. The Dodgers, I think we can be fair here and say they are objectively better than the Arizona Diamondbacks. Are the Padres objectively better than the Arizona Diamondbacks? Are the Giants objectively better right now than the Arizona Diamondbacks? I don't think so. I would take the Diamondbacks over both of those teams. Are the Diamondbacks objectively worse than any team in the National League Central? The Brewers? The Cardinals, the Cubs, and I know the Cubs have been making moves. And I know the Reds are trying. They've got a nice young core. They've got some nice players. It's going to be a fun division. Pittsburgh, a team on the rise, right? Paul Skeens. Big story. Nice young rotation they have there. I get all of that. I take the Diamondbacks over any one of those teams in the National League Central. Why? Because I've seen them beat this Brewers team. They've done it in the postseason in the past. So the Dodgers are the only team I'm putting in front of you. You want to go to the National League East? I think they're better than the Mets right now. I know the Mets got Juan Soto, but they have more offensive holes than the Diamondbacks do. Are they better than the Braves? I think so. What are the Braves? Braves had a down year last year. The Phillies? The Phillies might be better. So you're talking about a team that's probably top 4, top 3 in the National League right now. That's how I view the Arizona Diamondbacks going into the season. That's where the expectations need to sit, everybody. That's where it's at. You've got top 10 players across the board here on this roster. You have a pitching rotation that can basically match up with anybody in baseball. You have young stars in Corbin Carroll. You have a perennial MVP candidate in Ketel Marte. You have one of the best young catchers in the game in Gabby Moreno. You've added Josh Naylor. You've got a prospect in Jordan Lawler that's sitting there ready to go. I would not be surprised, folks, if we see him on this team in 2025. That's a really nice core to be building around. That's a really nice place to find yourself going into 2025. So I don't know if we all realize how good this team is. I don't know if people understand what this team can accomplish this year because of how last year ended. And because last year, in the grand scheme of things, a disappointment coming off of a World Series appearance. It's a Football Friday, and we haven't done any football. So how about we change that? 480-864-1060 is the phone number if you want to join the conversation. But it is the NFL Look-Ahead Divisional Round Edition. Texans, Chiefs, Commanders, Lions, Rams, Eagles, Ravens, Bills. My big picture takeaways, what I'm paying attention to, the narratives, all of it. We do the NFL Look-Ahead, and we do it next here on the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Make sure you download the KDUS AM 1060 app so you can take us with you on the go. Everything KDUS AM 1060 all the time on the KDUS AM 1060 app, wherever you get your apps. We've only got 4, so we can really unpack these. We can dive into them here today on the program. So without further ado, let's do the divisional round NFL look ahead. That's right. 4 games after this weekend. When we get in here on Monday, we will know the Final 4. We will know who will be playing to represent the NFC and the AFC in the championship games for the Super Bowl. And it starts, we'll go in chronological order, okay, as these games are going to happen. The Texans go on the road to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. And the takeaway that I have here for you all is, can somebody change the narrative? The Houston Texans, can they change the narrative of being a team that, yeah, they're going to get into the playoffs, and yeah, they might be able to win that first playoff game, but they're not on that level yet. They're not on the Chiefs level. They're not on the Bills level. They're not on the Ravens level. They're not there yet. Can they change that narrative? This would be an upset. You go into Kansas City, you beat the Kansas City Chiefs, you win the Arrowhead Invitational by beating Kansas City in Kansas City. That's a marquee statement win. If this was, the college basketball or college football selection committees, that is a resume-defining victory. That one game, no matter what the rest of your playoffs look like, would change how people talk about you. We would go into next season talking about the Houston Texans saying, yeah, I'm going to pick them to win the division. And remember, they beat the Chiefs in the postseason. That's always going to be the thing that attaches to the Houston Texans if you win this game. You shred yourself of the stigma of being the first wild card game on Saturday every single year. You're the team that beat the Chiefs. You might move up the billing a little bit. You might get that primetime game. So that's the narrative on the side for the Houston Texans. Can they finally win that big game? Because C.J. Stroud and all the quarterbacks before him, DeMeco Ryans and all the coaches before him, Houston's been in this spot before. They've been the forgotten-about team in the playoffs. Can they finally make that statement? Can they finally make everybody pay attention to Houston? And on the Chiefs side of things, can you win a home game and cover? You're 8-point favorites. That has been the one knock on this team this year, is they don't cover. They don't win. They don't, at home or just in general, they keep these games close. They allow teams to hang around, and I'm here to tell you, and I'm not giving away my pick for this game. I'm not doing it. Schubert 6 in hour number 2. But the Kansas City Chiefs, week in and week out, were a team that we picked here on the Schubert 6. And we said, this is the week. You know what? This is the week they cover. This is the week they cover the big number. And then we reached a point where we said, you know what? I'm going to believe a team with what they tell me. And what the Kansas City Chiefs have told me is you can give them the big number, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You can make the number as large as you want it. The Kansas City Chiefs are playing these games close. This is their first postseason game. Last year, they did something similar. They played with their food throughout the regular season. Everybody thought, this is the year. You're going to get the Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champions. This is the year somebody goes into Arrowhead, somebody goes into Kansas City, they take care of business, they beat the Chiefs. This is the year it happens. This is the year somebody knocks off the Chiefs in the postseason, right? And what did the Chiefs do last year? They had to go on the road. They didn't necessarily have the Arrowhead Invitational. So it just felt like the year you get them. And what they do is roll through the postseason to another Super Bowl championship. And now they're going for 3. They're going for the three-peat. They're going for 3 in a row. Do they flip the switch this year just like they did last year? They flipped the switch, and they were able in the postseason to go on a run. Do they have that same magic in them? Hard to bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. So that's the narrative for the Kansas City Chiefs. Covering at home, and do they flip the switch again? I'm not giving away my pick. Hour number 2, you'll have to wait for that. The Commanders travel on the road for the Detroit Lions, and here's my takeaway here. If you are listening to this program and you're not a Commanders or a Lions fan, you're not on either side of this, how do you not look at this game and just root for both teams? How are you not excited whoever is going to move one step closer to being the NFC representative in the Super Bowl? You have a rookie quarterback on one side in Jaden Daniels, who obviously has ties here to Arizona State, but a rookie quarterback potentially playing in an NFC championship game. He's been just taken over there in Washington, led them on the game-winning drive last week. has been great all season long, has been probably the best rookie quarterback. I don't think there's a doubt there. He's been better than Caleb. He's been better than Drake May, and he's led Washington to 12 wins. He led them to the win last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now he has a chance. Dan Quinn in his first year in Washington, Cliff Kingsbury back in the NFL as an offensive coordinator, and a rookie quarterback. They are just one win away from being in the NFC Championship game, and then they would be one win away from the Super Bowl. So how do you not like that side of the story? And then Detroit, I know they were a favorite going into the year. I know they were the trendy pick, but how do you not root for Dan Campbell? How are you not rooting for Jared Goff? Again, if you have no rooting interest in either of these teams, how would you not be excited to watch Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, and the Detroit Lions go to an NFC Championship game and move one step closer to the Super Bowl? I'm watching this game on Saturday, and truthfully, I don't care who wins. I'm going to be excited to watch either of these teams, Commanders or the Lions, be one step closer to the Super Bowl. That's cool. That's fun. You very rarely get that. On the other side, I think everybody that's not in Kansas City is rooting for the Houston Texans. They're done. They're tired of it. You don't want to see the Chiefs anymore. I've told you I'm on record. I think Patrick Mahomes, the third best quarterback still left in the postseason. Third best quarterback still left in the postseason in a year in which you got an MVP candidate in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I think Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback. So the Chiefs, everybody's waiting to just pile on the Chiefs. They're just waiting for them to trip up. Commanders, Lions, nobody's waiting. Nobody's waiting in the weeds. Everybody's excited. So this game, probably the game of the weekend that has the least amount of stress, I think. You just sit back, you enjoy the two teams, and whoever wins at the end of the day, you say, man, that's a cool story. We move to Sunday, Rams, Eagles. The Rams travel on the road to take on the Philadelphia Eagles, and here you go. Here are your two narratives. Do the Rams have more McVay magic in them? Do they still have what we saw from them last week, that they can outcoach anybody? They can out-scheme anybody. They can make it difficult for the opposing team. I have long said the Rams are the team I would not want to face in the postseason. You've got the pedigree of a Super Bowl winning coach, has been to 2 Super Bowls. You have the pedigree of a Super Bowl winning quarterback. They know how to deal with adversity. They know how to deal with being on the road in these tough moments. You look at this game on paper and you say the talent is skewed to one side. It is heavily skewed to the Philadelphia Eagles. If we were just playing this game off of talent, the Eagles and Lions would be meeting in the NFC Championship game. But that's not how the game is played. They're going to play 4 quarters. The coaching battle is very one-sided to me. McVay is the better head coach. I think McVay has the better coordinators. And so, do they have enough magic to be able to just really make this game a grind? Because the Eagles, the one thing that they can do is they can lean on you. And if they lean on you and they get out to a 17-7, 17-0 lead, I don't think the Rams have that counterpunch. I don't think they have the ability to respond. But if we're just trading points and we get to the third quarter, fourth quarter, and we're looking at a 17-14 game or 24-21 and it's close, that's where the pressure starts to build on the Philadelphia side, and there is no pressure on the Rams. There's no pressure on a team that is going on the road to take on the 2 seed. All the pressure's on Philadelphia, so you got to keep the game close. And then on the other side, the Eagles, I'm waiting for the meltdown. Teams won, 14, 15 games this year? And there should have been meltdown after meltdown. You got A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts not getting along. You have a coach that I think some portion of the fan base is hoping loses the game so that they can get rid of him. It feels like they are due for this meltdown at some point, and they haven't had it yet. Is this the week that it happens, or are they able to just get it together and move this season along? For all the turmoil that they've had all year, they are just 2 wins away from going to the Super Bowl. Fascinating to me. The last game of the week, the Ravens and the Bills. And you know what? Here is your main event. And I have it here in the notes. And I think I truly believe this. I have a question mark next to it, but I'm going to make it a definitive statement. That's the Super Bowl. Ravens-Bills is the Super Bowl. I think whoever wins that game is going to win the AFC and is going to win the Super Bowl. You have 2 quarterbacks that are playing at MVP level. Either one of them deserves it. I think it's Lamar, but Josh Allen's certainly deserving to be in the conversation. The best version of the Bills that we have seen in a very long time. This is also the best version of the Ravens that we've seen in a long time. Whoever wins this game goes to Arrowhead. They beat the Chiefs because this is the best version of the Ravens and the Bills, and this is the worst version we've seen of the Chiefs in a really long time. And let's face it, if the Chiefs barely squeak by the Texans and the Ravens and Bills they win an instant classic, everybody's going to be ready to pick the team against the Chiefs. So whoever wins this game, Ravens-Bills, I think they go on to win the Super Bowl. I've told you all of my concerns about the Commanders, Lions, Rams, and Eagles on the NFC side. Lions, I worry about the defense. Commanders, rookie quarterback. Eagles, I'm waiting for the meltdown. Rams, I think they can outcoach their way to a certain point. I don't know if they can outcoach their way to a Super Bowl when you play Lamar or Josh Allen or even maybe a Patrick Mahomes. So I think whoever wins Ravens-Bills is the team that goes on to win the Super Bowl. I told you when we did the power rankings earlier in the week, these are the top two teams I have left in the playoffs. It's Ravens 1, it's Bills 2. And so I think the winner of this game is the team that is in pole position. So spoiler alert for next week's show, when we do the conference championship reorder of the 4 teams, the winner of Ravens-Bills going to have the number 1 spot. That's who's going to be number 1 in the conference championship power ranking. So that, your divisional round NFL look ahead. Super excited for this weekend of football. We'll make our picks in hour number 2 of the program. And I will tell you, in weeks past, and producer Dylan can attest to this, there's a scramble that happens. I don't have all the picks ready. During the breaks, I'm running back and forth, trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm pacing up and down the hallway. This paper, I'm not going to show it to the YouTube audience, but you can hear it on radio. The picks are in. They are written down here. I typed them out this morning, and I feel really good. And we're not making 6 picks, obviously, because there's only 4 games. So we've dumped the 1 and 2 point plays. So it's a 3-point play, a 4-point play, a 5-point play, and a 6-point play. So that's what we're going to do in the Schubert 6 in hour number 2 of the program. But we are still in hour number 1 of the show. You want to hop in, 480-864-1060. How about this? On the other side, we wrap up hour number 1 of the program. We asked for somebody else to step up. And last night, it might have been the person you least expected. Or maybe you did expect it. We'll talk about that next on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back into the lunch break, wrapping up hour number 1 of the program. Chris Schubert here with you. Appreciate you joining us here on the Friday edition of the show. Hope you're getting excited for the weekend and what lies ahead. I do want to discuss Ryan Dunn's performance last night for the Phoenix Suns, and he's really starting to turn a corner. And we are going to discuss that here to close up hour number 1. But I did not want to get through 1 hour of the show without discussing a story that came out this morning on ESPN, talking about the trade deadline that's coming up for the NBA, and a little piece of information that was kind of thrown into a story. And this is not new. What I'm about to tell you, I hope everybody's sitting down. What I'm about to tell you is not going to shock you. This is not new information. But the importance of who is saying it and the fact that they are continuing to say it is what is important. So there was a story on ESPN.com today that was talking about the 5 players that are most likely to be traded, and it was basically an information dump of where things stand at the NBA trade deadline. And one of the things that was talked about was the Phoenix Suns and the Kevin Durant trade in particular. And the blurb talked about how the Kevin Durant trade is still having ramifications all this time later because of the draft picks and everything that happened with it. But here is a quote from the story from Brian Windhorst. Quote, Phoenix has also discussed using the 1 first-round pick it is still allowed to trade, that's the 2031 pick, in various talks around trying to acquire Butler, multiple league sources told ESPN, end quote. So, remember, yesterday we broke down the Nick Richards trade from all the different angles, and I told you that after trading away all that draft capital, trading away Josh Okogie, leaving yourself with 1 second-round pick and the 2031 first-round pick, I said, Jimmy Butler, it's off the table. It's not happening. They don't have the assets. I think common sense is beginning to prevail in that front office that they know that they need to leave themselves the escape pod, the escape hatch. Maybe not. This story may be opening the door just a little bit. But again, it goes back to where we started all of this. We need like a sound effect for where like we go back in time, when we go back to like a previous edition of the show. But remember when the Jimmy Butler rumors first started, what did I say to all of you? What did you all say about this move? Well, you got to get Bradley Beal to waive his no-trade clause. And Miami is uninterested in moving the no-trade clause. And we said over and over and over again, all of the hurdles that you need to clear, all of the hurdles that need to be overcome. You need Bradley Beal to waive his no-trade clause. You need another team to be willing to take on Bradley Beal because we know it's certainly not Miami. And then you need to also agree to the compensation for Jimmy Butler. And guess what? You don't have a whole lot. So let's play this out real quick, right? Are you going to attach the 2031 pick to Bradley Beal's contract and trade him to Miami? Miami doesn't want him. Miami is in the business right now of shedding payroll. They want flexibility. So they're going to trade a guy who has a player option for what I think it's $52 million next season. They're going to trade that guy who, if he opts in, is on the books for 1 more year. They're going to trade that guy, and they're going to bring back a guy who has a no-trade clause and has 2 more years on his deal at $50+ million a season. When we know why Miami is trading Jimmy Butler in the first place is, well, he doesn't want to be there, but also the flexibility. They're not giving him a contract extension for a reason. They don't want to pay a player $50+ million. You think they're going to want to do that with Bradley Beal? And so you can't attach the 2031 pick in that regard. So even if Bradley Beal wants to waive his no-trade clause there, even if he would be willing to move everything to Miami, Miami doesn't want him. So now you go down path number 2. And path number 2 is, hey, we're going to take the Bradley Beal's contract and we're going to find somebody else who wants him. We also need a crickets sound effect because there's no takers. You don't have anybody. And the thing that you can dangle out there to entice them might be the 2031 pick. But then you also need Bradley Beal to want to go to that team. So let's say you do find a team. And let's say Bradley Beal does want to go there. And let's say you have to attach the 2031 pick in order to do it. What do you have left to trade to Miami? You're going to need to get that third team to trade something to Miami. You're going to need that third team and Miami to agree on compensation. This trade scenario has more plot twists than your favorite thriller movie. There's too many variables. There are too many wrinkles. And so maybe the Phoenix Suns are still actively discussing the idea of moving the 2031 first-round pick. That scares me. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's your escape move. I think that's the escape pod, keeping the 2031 pick, trading Bradley Beal this summer, trading Kevin Durant this summer, and moving the 2031 pick and also moving Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler. You don't have the escape pod really anymore. It's down to one thing. It's down to Kevin Durant. But if you do all of this, you don't have anything left to trade Miami. So how is this happening? How are you getting this deal over the finish line? And that's why I think when they made the move for Nick Richards, that was their signal to all of us of the Jimmy Butler stuff isn't happening. He's going to return from suspension tonight. He is not listed on the injury report, at least I don't think. I'm going to check again here. They play Denver tonight. Let me check to see if he's on the injury report. He is not. He is not listed as out. So are we going to see Jimmy Butler back tonight for the Miami Heat? That's a fascinating story in and of itself. But that doesn't feel like that has a conclusion anytime soon. That feels like two sides that are ready to go back and forth for a pretty long time, at least into the foreseeable future. And so I saw that quote this morning in the ESPN story, and I at least wanted to touch on it here on the show. But I want to get to the thing that was most important to me last night, is we asked for somebody to step up. We knew you didn't have Bradley Beal. We know Devin Booker has been playing out of his mind right now. Another 30-point performance, and we'll touch on this in hour number 2 of the show, just how great it is that he is back and playing at this level right now. Kevin Durant added his 23. You know you're going to get 20 points out of both of those guys. Grayson Allen with a big night, right? 9 points the other night. And we said he is a guy that could potentially step up. He dropped 21, was 5 of 7 from behind the three-point line. But you know who dropped 18 last night? You know who had a double-double last night, 18 and 11? Rookie Ryan Dunn, who played nearly 30 minutes. And no matter what this season ends up for the Phoenix Suns, they hit a home run with the Ryan Dunn pick. They landed, I don't want to say future star, but they landed a future piece for whatever the next iteration of the Phoenix Suns looks like. Whether it's with Kevin Durant or Bradley Beal or Devin Booker or not, Ryan Dunn is a piece for the future. 18 and 11 last night, first double-double, played 30 minutes, was 8 of 12 from the field, 2 of 3 from behind the three-point line. Just an awesome, awesome, awesome performance from Ryan Dunn. And you know what? Listen, 18 and 11 from a rookie every single night is asking for a lot. But if you told me that he, with the shot looking the way that it did in the pre-draft, draft process, and post-draft, the work that he has put in to get to this point, he is a key contributor. And do not be surprised if one of the reasons why the Suns are able to turn this around is that they get more production from Ryan Dunn, that he's able to continue to impact the game the way that he is, that he is the defensive hawk that he can be on that side of the floor, but also add some. What did we say at the beginning of the season? Ryan Dunn's defense is NBA ready. The worry we had was, would he be able to provide enough offensively, and not just in points, but would he be able to be enough of a threat passing the basketball, being open, forcing defenses to consider that he is out there? If he did enough, that would be a problem for opposing teams. But if he was only a one-way player, if he was only helping you on the defensive side, going to be tough for Budenholzer to put him in the lineup if the team's down 15 or the team's down 10 and they need to go on a run. Well, guess what? Ryan Dunn is not a problem on the offensive side. He is able to add value over there. He was a +4 in the game last night, 18 and 11, played 30 minutes. That is a nice, encouraging thing for this team moving forward. Because, yes, you know what you're going to get with Kevin Durant. You know what you're going to get with Devin Booker. The Bradley Beal stuff we'll figure out as this season progresses and we see if he finds a rhythm in this bench role. It's only been 6 games. We asked for somebody else to step up. And if you're going to get nearly 40 points from Grayson Allen and Ryan Dunn, think about this. If the big three gets you 70 and you get nearly 40 from Dunn and Allen, you're feeling pretty good about your chances of winning a basketball game. You got nearly 40 points last night from Grayson Allen and Ryan Dunn. It's a pretty nice place to be. And so Ryan Dunn getting that extended run last night with Bradley Beal out, playing nearly 30 minutes to produce the way that he did last night, stepping up for this team, adding an additional scoring threat along with Grayson Allen, that is a positive. And the Suns won the game last night, right? We spent the top of the show talking about how it was a win. You're not going to give it back, but you don't feel great about it. I feel great about the way Ryan Dunn played last night. I feel really great about the production you got from Grayson Allen in 28 minutes off the bench, right? You feel good about those two things. And if that stuff is sustainable, maybe not exactly to the same tune every night, but if you're going to get 30 points from those two guys, 35 points from those two guys, changes everything. Changes everything when this team is fully healthy and they have Booker, Durant, and Beal all together. Everything kind of flows. Because you didn't get a whole lot from anybody else. Royce O'Neal with 9 off the bench. Monte Morris and Bol combined for 7. Oso didn't give you anything off the bench. 0 points there. So with Booker dropping 37 and Durant dropping 23, that's 60 right there. You needed it to come from someplace else. You were without Bradley Beal, so somebody else had to provide the additional scoring. And it was Ryan Dunn and Grayson Allen, the only 4 members of the Phoenix Suns that were in double figures last night. So just a home run pick. I mean, when you're picking at that stage of the draft, these are all darts being thrown at a dartboard. And the Phoenix Suns, I mean, I'll call it a bullseye for where you're picking in that spot of the draft to land Ryan Dunn and for him to be, because last night, the culmination of it in just the stat line with the 18 and 11, the double-double, but he has been very good for this team. He has added value to this team as a rookie when they've needed. That's when they drafted him. The idea was, listen, kid, you're going to be a part of this rotation. We need you to contribute. You can't just sit in the G League and develop. You've got to come in and be the defensive hawk that we know you can be and add some stuff on the offensive side of the floor. And he has done exactly that. So I wanted to make sure that in all the talk that we had about the Phoenix Suns today, we made sure to give credit where credit is due. That was a great pick by the Phoenix Suns. Ryan Dunn, a very impressive performance last night, and it went a long way for the Phoenix Suns to salvage what they got last night. Still looking at the box score that Devin Booker had to play all 12 minutes of the fourth quarter. But that, listen, that's just me. It's just in front of me. I'm sorry, okay, that he had to play all 12 minutes. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 right around the corner. You want to join in, 480-864-1060. You can also join in on the YouTube live stream. And Michael's over there saying Dunn is awesome. Yes, Dunn was awesome last night for the Phoenix Suns. We start hour number 2 with this. A running mate for Marvin Harrison Jr. We said that that's the top priority for the Cardinals. But could there be another issue at the top of the surface? That's next in the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Hour number 2 of the lunch break, and we can't do a Football Friday. We can't do a divisional round football Friday edition of the lunch break without at least talking some Cardinals here on the show, right? We're getting you ready for the free agent frenzy that's coming up. We're getting you ready for a huge offseason. We are setting the table. We are putting our takes out there ahead of time. We are making sure that we make it clear what the Cardinals need to accomplish this offseason. And I was reading a story in it's the Arizona Republican, the print edition, but it's AZ Central when it's online. I was on AZ Central, and I was reading a story about the free agents for the Cardinals this upcoming offseason. So here are the unrestricted free agents, or at least the ones that I want to point out here, and you're going to very quickly get the theme of what I'm doing here. But left guard Evan Brown, an unrestricted free agent. Your right guard Will Hernandez is an unrestricted free agent. Tristan Colon, also your left guard this season, an unrestricted free agent. And swing tackle Kelvin Beachum, also a free agent. Now, you picked up what I was putting down. You got the theme here. I'm pointing out the 4 offensive linemen who are unrestricted free agents when the new league year turns over for the Cardinals. And what do we have here? Well, we have your starting right guard in Will Hernandez, who Tristan Colon took over for him and played pretty well. Your starting left guard, Evan Brown, who was fantastic this season. And Kelvin Beachum, who was your backup plan when Jonah Williams went down immediately and was really good all the way through Jonah Williams coming back from that injury. So you've got 4 players here who played pretty important roles for the offensive line of the Arizona Cardinals in 2024. You have 4 guys who aren't just names on a depth chart. All 4 of these guys, your starting left guard, the 2 guys who made up your starting right guard for the season, and Kelvin Beachum, who is your starting right tackle for a majority of the year. We're not talking nobodies. We're talking starters who had major impacts on this team. So all 4 of those guys, free agents. So here is what your current offensive line looks like going into next season. Well, you know who your starting left tackle is. That's Paris Johnson Jr. Your left guard, that's a bunch of question marks. You got Evan Brown and Tristan Colon, who are there, but they're going to be free agents. Will Hernandez was on the right side. Okay. Yoda Froholt is your center. We're good there. We've got that locked up. Your right guard, well, Isaiah Adams took over that spot late in the season, so we'll put him there for now, but put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. And your right tackle is Jonah Williams, who's under contract. That is, on January 17th, 2025, the state of the Cardinals' offensive line. You've got a starting left tackle, you've got a starting center, and I think you've got a starting right tackle that you feel really, really good about. You need a starting left guard. Somebody has to come in here and be your starting left guard, and you might want to look at an upgraded right guard. So the interior of your offensive line, and I got to tell you, I'd also probably make it a priority to bring back Kelvin Beachum to be my swing tackle in case something happens with Paris Johnson or Jonah Williams, because he was excellent. Took him a little bit, and he's an older player, but he's a swing tackle that can play both left and right. And he came in one of the worst possible scenarios. Jonah Williams gets injured immediately as the season begins. Barely plays the first half. And now Kelvin Beachum has to step in and be the right tackle immediately. And it took him a little bit, but he was so good. And the offensive line was gelling so good, or so well, that when Jonah Williams came back from injury, we had the conversation here on this show. What do? Do you bring Jonah Williams back into the lineup, or do you ride with the group that is playing really well? And we debated what makes the most sense. What's the right decision? And they put Jonah Williams back in the lineup. But Kelvin Beachum made it a conversation. He made it a tough choice. So I'd make Kelvin Beachum one of my top priorities to be one of my backup tackles, to be my swing tackle, to be my 6th offensive lineman, basically, in case something happens to Paris Johnson Jr. and Jonah Williams. But I need a left guard. And I probably want to look at an upgrade at right guard potentially, or at least some depth there. So I need a left guard. And I might need an upgrade at right guard. So let's consult our trusted free agency preview guide that I told you about that Mike Clay over at ESPN puts together, and he ranks all the guards. And here are the top of the guards. Kevin Zeitler, Trey Smith, Will Hernandez. So it took us just very quickly into this whole process to find a free agent that was a member of the Arizona Cardinals, near the top of this class. And then Zach Martin, a veteran there in Dallas, Will Fries, and Matt Pryor. That's what the top of the market looks like. Kevin Zeitler is going to be the big fish. Kevin Zeitler is going to be probably the guy that commands the most money. But there might not be anything wrong with bringing back Will Hernandez and Evan Brown and just rolling with those guys as your left guard and right guard, the backbone of your interior offensive line. Evan Brown was great. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You can come to terms. You bring him back. You slot him right in back to left guard. He worked with Paris Johnson Jr. He worked with Yoda Froholt. He doesn't have to learn the tendencies of his left tackle and of his center, of what they do and what they don't do, and where he needs to maybe help with some deficiencies. He knows exactly what he's getting on either side of him of the offensive line. And you bring back Will Hernandez. Remember, Will Hernandez got hurt. That's the only reason why he didn't finish the season, and you had to do the Isaiah Adams and Tristan Colon thing. So Will Hernandez, you could bring him back, one of the best guards left on the market. You put him back at right guard, boom, you're fine. But let's be honest with each other. Offensive line is a priority for the Cardinals this offseason. Because you right now need a left guard. Whether it's bringing back Evan Brown or it's bringing somebody else in, you need a left guard. Left guard currently is a position that is wide open for the Arizona Cardinals. You might want to look at a upgrade at right guard. Or if you really like what you saw from Isaiah Adams and you want to roll with him next season and just bring in somebody that is veteran depth, okay, so be it. But you have 4 guys that played roles for this team last year. You have Evan Brown at left guard, who, by the way, charged with only 2 sacks, according to PFF last season. So you have that, and he's a veteran presence. But Kevin Zeitler might be an upgrade. Trey Smith might be an upgrade. Those are upgrades from where you have, and those are going to cost some big dollars. And the beautiful thing about where we sit right now with the Arizona Cardinals is none of these moves have happened. T. Higgins hasn't been signed. They have $70+ million in cap space. Everything's on the table. So we can talk about acquiring Kevin Zeitler. We can talk about signing T. Higgins. We can talk about what big pass rusher they can trade for or sign in free agency, because all of it is available to them. They have all the money. They have all the draft picks. Everything is available. Nothing has been taken off the board. It's a beautiful place to be at this time of year. So you have Evan Brown, who is your starting left guard. You may want to upgrade there, and you can probably do better there. And so if you spent big bucks there, maybe you're not bringing back Evan Brown, but you need a left guard. You might want to look at an upgrade at right guard. You have Will Hernandez, who played 4.5 games before he got hurt against the 49ers with a season-ending knee injury. And he was good in those 4.5 games. And so you could just bring him back. He's coming off of the knee injury, so maybe you start the year with Isaiah Adams and you have Will Hernandez as the backup. See, this is where there's all these different permutations. But I could see a world where they spend big dollars on maybe a Kevin Zeitler. And then they also bring back Will Hernandez. And now you have a starting left guard, and you have a backup right guard, veteran presence in Will Hernandez, and then you bring back Kelvin Beachum as your swing tackle, and that's your offensive line group. So there's continuity. There's some upside. You saw what Paris Johnson Jr. gave you last year. You saw what Yoda Froholt gave you last year. You saw what Jonah Williams gave you when he was healthy last year. You know what you're getting in Evan Brown if you decide to bring him back. You know what you're getting in Will Hernandez and Kelvin Beachum if you try to bring those guys back into the fold as some veteran depth options. And that's what you need. You need veteran depth. You can't just have 5 offensive linemen. You need to have 7 or 8 guys that you can rely on. And why not have those veteran guys be the guys that you know better than anybody else? Why not have those guys be the players that were with you last year? Why wouldn't you bring back a Kelvin Beachum? You think you're going to get a better swing tackle that knows your system, that's affordable the way Kelvin Beachum might be? You think you're going to be able to get a better guard for your team than Will Hernandez or Tristan Colon as veteran depth? I'm just talking veteran depth here. I'm not talking starters. Are you really going to be able to do that? I don't know. And so why not go with the guys? Why not pick the players that have been here and have done that? Why not re-sign Kelvin Beachum, re-sign Will Hernandez, and then determine what you want to do at left guard? But this team right now has a big hole on the left side of their offensive line. This team has a big fish that they need to fry. So we can talk about wide receiver. We can talk about edge. And we could talk about maybe adding a corner. But offensive line is on that list as well. Because there are different ways this plays out. There are different permutations to it all. And so I saw the story today and I saw those 4 names and I'm like, man, this is a weird spot to be. There are a bunch of different ways that this goes. There's just, you look at it and you can say, okay, if this guy's back, then maybe this guy's not back. And if we sign this player in free agency, then is this guy going to end up then flipping to this side? Like, if you sign Kevin Zeitler, right, and you put him on the right side where you have Isaiah Adams, what are you going to do with left guard? You're bringing back Tristan Colon? Are you bringing back Evan Brown and making Evan Brown? How does this all play out? And so the first thing that you should do is determine which of the guys that are ours, that are unrestricted free agents, are the ones that are coming back in next year. Because then that kind of solves some of these dominoes. But right now there's a glaring hole at left guard, and they can choose to make an upgrade at right guard. Everything else is pretty stable. Your left tackle, your center, and your right tackle, you know what that is going into next year. You know it's Paris Johnson Jr., it's Yoda Froholt, and it's Jonah Williams. What you do with your two guard spots on the interior, that determines on who you bring back and who you're willing to spend big money on. Because remember, they have $70 million in cap space. Everything's available to them. But they can't solve everything with money. They will run out of effective cap space at some point. So not everything is available to them. Right now, everything's on the table because they haven't signed anybody. But you sign T. Higgins for $25, $30 million a season, or $20 to $30 million a season, whatever that number ends up being. Now you got $50 million, and you have other needs to fill. So the money, once starts happening, once dominoes start to fall, limits what you're able to do elsewhere. So we've talked about T. Higgins, we've talked about getting an edge, but don't sleep on the offensive lineman. There's a left guard that needs to come in here, and there probably needs to be an upgrade at right guard. So the interior of the offensive line also going to be a major focus for the Cardinals in free agency and probably in the draft as well. Coming up on the other side, 480-864-1060, the phone number if you want to hop in, get involved with the show. A little basketball. We'll get back into the Suns. The best thing of the last week, I'll say it, Devin Booker is back. That is next on the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Welcome back into the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Make sure you download the KDUS AM 1060 app today. Register, sign up. Take the station with you on the go. The Phoenix Suns won a basketball game last night, although it probably doesn't feel like that, considering that they had a 24-point lead and they watched it dwindle down all the way to 3 points, and you're probably not feeling great today on a Friday. You're probably not feeling like it was a victory last night, even though they're back to 500. They have won 5 of their last 7. They're 1-1 on this current road trip. You probably don't feel any of that today. You don't feel like you're watching a team that is playing pretty good basketball as of late. 5 of their last 7. Probably don't feel that way today, but you're not giving the win back, and nor should you. They won the basketball game, and I'm not playing this game of, it feels like a loss. It's not great what happened last night. What happened in last night's game is, I don't want to say inexcusable, that's too far, but it shouldn't happen, right? Because going into the game, we talked about it. This was the golden opportunity to get out to an early lead and to be able to take your foot off the gas pedal and not have to play Devin Booker 12 minutes in the fourth quarter, right? This is your chance to give some guys, even though you're not fully sitting them, to give them a couple of minutes, right? So that they don't have to be overloaded when you got Detroit coming up. You got Cleveland coming up. You have the rest of this road trip coming up, right? You've got 3 more games on this 5-game road trip swing where you're not sleeping in your own bed. You're away from home. Wouldn't it be nice to maybe on a given night be able to just rear back on and be able to just be like, hey, you don't have to play 39 minutes in tonight's contest. You can play, Booker played all 12 minutes. If he only played half of that, we're getting closer to 30 instead of 40 minutes. That would have been nice. That's nice over the course of a long 82-game season, right? You're not giving the game back, but you missed an opportunity last night. But I'll tell you what, you know who's not missing opportunities right now? Devin Booker. Here is what he has been able to do in his last 5 games. So this goes all the way back to January 9th when they played Atlanta. By the way, they're 4-1 in this 5-game stretch, okay? So in this 5-game stretch, the Suns 4-1. Here's what Booker has done in the last 5 games. 20 points against Atlanta, 34 against Utah, 30 against Charlotte, 35 against Atlanta in a loss, 37 last night against Washington. 4 straight 30-plus point performances. From October through December 31st, Devin Booker had 7 30-plus point games. 7 of them in 2.5 months, 3 months. He has 4 in a row right now. He has found it. I don't know if it's just the rust or whatever was bothering him wearing off. I don't know if it's the move to the bench. Bradley Beal is just freeing up more space for him to operate, and he's just more comfortable in that role, and he's just being able to find a quicker rhythm that's allowing him to have these 30-plus point performances. Whatever it is, I want the Phoenix Suns to keep doing it. Because you are seeing this basketball team play differently right now. You are seeing this team maneuver the minutes around of who is on the floor at what time. The move to Bradley Beal to the bench isn't to say, hey, you're going to play less minutes. It's not a move to say, hey, you're only going to play 22 minutes now to the bench. It's, no, you're going to play a similar 30-minute workload, but we're going to utilize it differently. And it's going to give you different spacing on the floor. It's going to give Devin different spacing on the floor. It's going to give Durant different spacing on the floor. It's going to allow us to look differently while asking these 3 big players to score a ton for us, right? And you know who has seemed to take to this move the most or the best? Devin Booker. And this is a guy that we were asking questions about early in the season. What's wrong with Devin Booker? Why the slow start with Devin Booker? What's going on? How do you fix it? All of a sudden, when the team is near rock bottom, when the season is spiraling out of control, he has all of a sudden found his game. He has all of a sudden found 4 straight 30-plus point performances. He scored 37 last night. Now, that's in large part because he had to play 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. A game that he didn't need to play 12 minutes in. I just want to keep reminding everybody, didn't have to do that. He scored 14 in the fourth quarter in his 12 minutes. So he maybe wouldn't have gotten to 30 if he backed off in the fourth quarter. But you blow the lead from 24-3. You needed all 10 of those points. The 10 points that he scored in the fourth quarter. You needed all 10 of them. But Devin Booker has found something. And if it is directly related to the Bradley Beal bench move of reallocating the way this looks, that is a nice side effect that might be working. And that might help make this sustainable. Because our question about the bench move is, are you going to get the consistency now from Bradley Beal coming off the bench? And we've given you the game logs. It's all over the place. But if a new consistency can emerge out of this, that you're going to get these types of performances from Devin Booker, you're now just kind of moving around where the points are coming from. So then on a given night, when you get these 30 burgers from Devin, and you get the 20-plus points off the bench from Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant is doing Kevin Durant things, now you look like the big three, and now you look like the team that we saw at the start of the year, and now you start looking like the team that plays into the potential of what you can be. That's the dream scenario, right? The dream scenario is the move to the bench. Bradley Beal is able to come off the bench and drop 25 like he did in Philadelphia, a 20-plus point performance off the bench. You get these types of nights from Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant does Kevin Durant things, and you're getting 70, 80, even potentially 90 points from the big three, right? That's probably the North Star. You're looking for probably 70 or 80 on a given night from those three. And then you know you're going to get what you're going to get from Grayson Allen and Ryan Dunn and Royce O'Neal and everybody else coming off the bench, right? But you need about 70 or 80 to feel really good about where you're at in a game from the big three. And so that's where the move to the bench might be sustainable. If this version of Devin Booker is there the rest of the way. If we see this version of Devin Booker the remainder of the season, and I don't mean he's got to drop 30 in every single game, but if he has turned a corner to where he gets back more to his career norms, the numbers that we expect from him, then I think there's a chance that this could work. And then I think there's a chance that we can slowly start to believe in this team again. The more of those performances that we see stacked together, the belief will start to come back. You don't believe after last night. You don't believe after watching a 24-point lead evaporate to 3. You don't believe after losing to Memphis or to Charlotte or starting with that loss to the Hawks. You don't feel differently. You would feel differently if for 7 or 10 games you're getting really good performances off the bench from Bradley Beal. Devin Booker is continuing to do what he's doing, and the big three is scoring 70, 80, maybe even 90 points a night, and they're winning a lot of basketball games. You're then going to start to believe again because you can buy into that. You can't buy into what you saw last night. You're scared of what you saw last night. You're scared of what you saw against Charlotte, against Atlanta, against Memphis. You're scared because it doesn't feel sustainable. It doesn't feel like the team is on solid footing. It feels like they could lose this weekend to Detroit. You don't walk into this weekend against Detroit feeling like, oh, you know what? The Suns are going to play well. The Suns are going to take care of business against Detroit, a team that's 21-20. They're a young upstart team in the Eastern Conference, but they're not head and shoulders better than you. You can win that basketball game. You should win that basketball game. But you don't feel confident right now to sit here and say they are going to win that basketball game. And I know you don't feel that way about Cleveland. We said that was the one loss you give them on this road trip. You know that loss is going to happen because Cleveland is playing some of the best basketball in the NBA right now, and you aren't. And so if there is one good thing so far that we have seen over the last week, it is that Devin Booker has found his game. And if Devin Booker is going to play like that the remainder of the season, this team might be able to will themselves into the playoffs. They might be able to will themselves into a nice, solid spot in the NBA playoffs. And so I know last night probably left a bad taste in your mouth, a 24-point lead cut to 3. But you won the game last night. Ryan Dunn looked awesome. Devin Booker continues to be awesome. So don't ignore what happened. Don't ignore that they blew that lead. Don't ignore those warning signs. But also know there's some good that came out of last night. There's some good that they can carry into Detroit, that they can carry into Cleveland, that can carry into what we talk about on Monday. And that is Ryan Dunn played awesome last night, and Devin Booker is back. Those are two really nice things to say about last night's contest. 480-864-1060 is the phone number for you to join the conversation on the other side of the break. It is the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We have 4 picks to make. My picks for all 4 divisional round games. It is the divisional round edition of the Schubert 6. We will do it on the other side, the lunch break, KDUS AM 1060. Time to make some picks. Welcome back in the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Hope you're all having a fantastic Friday. Hope you're excited for the weekend. We are doing a show on Monday. We'll be here. We've got divisional round playoffs to react to. We've got a Suns game to break down. We will be here during the lunch break on Monday's edition of the show. We've got picks to make. And so that means I get to do this. And I get to tell you, like I've been telling you all week long, and listen, I'm taking victory laps when they're allowed, okay? I'm not trying to throw it in your face. I'm just trying to tell you like it is. We went 5-1 last week, okay? We made 6 playoff picks. Remember, late in the season, I said, yeah, you know what? Playoffs, less games to pick from. We're going to scale it back. We're only going to make 3 picks. And then I thought to myself, what a phony you are. What a coward you are that you're not going to make 6 picks. So then we changed our mind. We changed course, and we said we are going to make 6 picks. And then we started in the worst possible way. We started 0-1, and we weren't even in the game. We were uncompetitive. What did we do after that? Rattled off 5 consecutive victories. So if you take out week 18 of the regular season, which we told you at the time was going to be a nightmare, we are on fire down the stretch here and now into the postseason. So only 4 plays because there's 4 games. So what are we doing? We're taking those little baby 1 and 2 point plays, the ones that we're like, yeah, we're not so sure about. They're out of there. A 6-point play, a 5-point play, a 4-point play, and a 3-point play. So what was yesterday's 1 and 2 point plays are now today's 3 and 4-point plays. So we will start with our 3-point play, and I kind of hinted at it. I told you I was not going to give away my picks, but I kind of told you how I felt about this game. My 3-point play, the Kansas City Chiefs -8. Now, I think the Chiefs win the football game. I think Houston shows us exactly what they've been every single year. At best, they win 1 playoff game. They don't go on a run. They don't play in the AFC Championship game. And let me tell you something. They're not going into Arrowhead, and they're not beating the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not doing it. If there's a team that is going to dethrone the Chiefs, it's going to come from the Bills and Ravens contest. But here's the concern. Chiefs don't cover. Chiefs struggle to cover. They have been on the do not bet list, and we have no choice. We're here in the playoffs. We have to pick them, and I'm not taking the Texans plus the 8 because I think Kansas City's the much better team, and this feels like at worst we're dealing with a scenario late where the Chiefs are up 7 and we're looking for a backdoor cover. We're looking for a field goal or a touchdown as time is expiring. So I think the Chiefs are going to be in control of this game. So at -8, I think because they're in control of this game, we might see them be up 10, 14 points for a large stretch of this game and be worried about Houston scoring late or needing the Chiefs to score late. But I think the Chiefs, from start to finish, wire to wire, are going to be in control of this football game. But I'm just very scared, very concerned about asking the Kansas City Chiefs to cover a number bigger than 7 points. So that is why they are the 3-point play, Chiefs -8, the 4-point play. You sitting down, everybody? You ready? Because we're taking an underdog as our as our 4-point play. And we're taking an underdog, and we'll take the points here. This underdog, they might win the game outright. They might pull the upset. They might go on the road and beat this team. Because you know who's going to be our 4-point play this week? And I'm ready to be absolutely ridiculed on Monday. I'm ready for it. Phone number, 480-864-1060. I know you're going to queue up on Monday if I look foolish for this pick. My 4-point play. They have been my ride or die all year long. They have been my ride or die for the last couple of weeks. I've told you what I felt about this team. And I think at some point, all of this nonsense is going to come back to bite this team. So you know what? As my 4-point play, give me the Rams plus the 6.5. That's right. Not only do I think they cover the 6.5, they might win the game outright. They might have just a little bit of magic left in them. I think Sean McVay's the better coach. I know Sean McVay is the better coach. I think he can coach circles around Nick Sirianni. And let's face it, the Eagles were not that impressive last week against the Green Bay Packers. Jalen Hurts went 90 real-time minutes without completing a pass or in between completed passes. They looked rusty. They're rusty. They've had all sorts of turmoil all year long. You got a quarterback and the number 1 wide receiver not on the same page. You got other players talking about it when they aren't supposed to. You've got a coach that I don't know if The fan base still wants there, even though they're just 2 wins away from the Super Bowl. There has just been nonsense all over the place with the Philadelphia Eagles all year long. It hasn't come back to bite them. This might be the week it does. You're playing a good quarterback. You're playing a good coach. And you know what? The Rams secretly have the recipe to win on the road. Did you watch Chris Shula's defense against the Vikings, against a team that won 14 games, that had Sam Darnold in a tizzy? He didn't know which way was up, which way was down in that football game. You've got the defense, and you have the running game with one of the best running backs in Kyren Williams. You want to win on the road, you got to control the tempo. You got to run the football, and you got to play great defense. Guess what? They've got the pass rush. They've got the defense. They've got the running game. They've got the coach. They've got the quarterback who can make the big throws. They have the perfect recipe to go on the road and upset the Philadelphia Eagles. So you're telling me that I'm going to get nearly a touchdown? That if they keep the game close like I think they can, that I'm going to win this bet? My 4-point play, the Rams plus 6.5. Our 5-point play. I told you they're the best team left in the playoffs. I told you that they have the best quarterback left in the playoffs. I told you that they have the MVP. I told you that this year is different. So why wouldn't I take the Ravens -1 as my 5-point play? This is not your old school Ravens football team. This is not a Lamar Jackson football team from years past. This is a different Baltimore Ravens team. I know it is a different Buffalo team, and one could argue, and one would be probably right to say that this is the best version of Buffalo that we have seen. Josh Allen is doing this with a bunch of nobodies. No offense to the Buffalo Bills receiving core, but they get rid of Stephon Diggs, and it's just a bunch of guys. And it's allowed Josh Allen to play a little bit more freely, I think. He's been able to just get more guys involved, not worry about needing to feed one specific wide receiver. James Cook has taken his game to another level. It's been awesome this year. And they have just been a more complete offense. But you know who also has been a more complete offense? The Baltimore Ravens. With Derrick Henry, they've been a different team. And I know Zay Flowers' ability is up in the air for this game, and that's going to be a huge question mark going into this contest on Sunday. I'll ride with Lamar Jackson. I'll ride with John Harbaugh. I'll ride with Derrick Henry. I'll ride with Todd Monken. I will ride with this Baltimore team playing their best version of football right now. Give me the Ravens -1 as the 5-point play. And the 6-point play, I mean, come on now. We've been betting them all year. We had to issue a public apology to them because they should have been a 6-point play in a week that I was a coward and made them the 2-point play because the number was so big. Because I just had never seen a number that large that I felt that strongly about in a really long time. We had to give out a public apology. And I know they're a great story. But if you don't think I'm taking the Detroit Lions as my 6-point play, you have not listened to enough of the Schubert 6. The Detroit Lions -9.5, and that's where the line sits right now. I think this opened at 8 to 8.5, and it's been bet upwards to 9.5. But the Detroit Lions are my 6-point play. They're home. Jared Goff's been awesome. They have Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery's practicing. Aaron Glenn's got this defense playing out of their mind, even though they shouldn't be. And you know what? This is kind of a favorable matchup for Detroit for their defense because you have one guy to worry about on the opposite side in Terry McLaurin, but that's really it. You're not playing the Philadelphia Eagles where you have to worry about Saquon and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, right? You don't have a three-headed monster. They don't have a running game in Washington. Jaden Daniels is their running game. So you have Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels to worry about, and I think that means that Aaron Glenn's going to be able to come up with a really nice game plan. He's going to want to showcase to the Saints, the Jets, everybody else who wants to interview him, that he should be their next head football coach. And so I think you're going to see a really nice game plan, a really good performance from this defense, and you know what you're going to get with this offense. Washington's defense, Marshawn Lattimore got picked apart. I think you can see this game potentially being a track meet, and if it's a track meet, I'll take Jared Goff. I'll take Ben Johnson. I'll take Jahmyr Gibbs. I will take Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. I will take this offense for the Detroit Lions -9.5 as my 6-point play. So we'll bring the music down, and I will look into the camera. So this is why you need to watch on YouTube, but if you're watching on social media as well, this is for you. So we'll do the social media recap and the overall recap here for the Schubert 6. Our 3-point play, the Chiefs -8. I have no worries about the Chiefs winning the football game. I'm just worried about them covering, so this is where they sit, our new low spot, the 3-point play. Our 4-point play, the Rams +6.5. They have the recipe, the coach, The quarterback, the defense, the running game, they have the recipe to pull off the upset on the road. I don't even need them to pull off the upset. I just need them to cover the 6.5. I think they keep this game close, if not win it outright. My 5-point play, the Ravens -1. I know it's the best version of the Bills, but it's also the best version of the Ravens. They are the best team in the AFC. They win this football game. And then our 6-point play, it's a big number. I like this matchup for the Lions defense, even though they have all their injuries. I love the Lions offense against this Washington defense. I think they cover the 9.5. So that, your divisional round, Schubert 6. I mentioned it. We were 5-1 last week. We lost the first game by taking the Chargers. We then rattled off 5 in a row to bounce back from a 2-4 stretch to end the year. We were 2-4 in Week 18, and we bounced back in a big way. So if you choose to follow along, Chiefs -8, Rams +6.5, Ravens -1, Lions -9.5, and we're coming off of a 5-1 week here on the program. I'll tell you, I'm really excited for Ravens Bills. I'm really excited for Rams Eagles, Texans Chiefs. You know, that might be. Producer Dylan, can you tell me what time that game is? That might be like a 2 or 3 o'clock start in the afternoon. That is ultimate chore football. You put that on the big screen TV while you're cleaning the house. You're doing chores around the house. The dishes have been piling up all week. Maybe you got to clean the counters. You want to empty out the fridge. You put that on the big screen TV in the living room when you can see it from the kitchen. So middle of the day, 2:30, the ultimate chore football game. Be doing stuff around the house while I watch Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Houston Texans. The other 3, I think I'm going to want to sit down and make sure I've got everything done for those 3. But Texans Chiefs, yeah, that can be some. We'll do chores while we're watching that football game. 480-864-1060 is the phone number if you want to join the conversation on the other side. We wrap up this edition this week on the lunch break. We do it the way we do it every single day here on the show with the leftovers. All the stories that we didn't get to on the show, we do in the leftovers. So we'll do that next. It's the lunch break, KDUS, AM 1060. The last segment of the week. Last segment of today's show. You got Jim Rome coming up at the top of the hour, 1 to 4. Jim Rome, heard here now on KDUS AM 1060. So join the jungle and start your drive home with the Jim Rome Show. That at the top of the hour. We're not out of here just yet. We've got one more segment. We have the leftovers. And this is not the first time we've discussed this week. It's just a new team in a new city. It was earlier in the week we talked about the Colts getting the Berlin game, right, Producer Dylan? We talked about that earlier in the week. How about the Dolphins hosting a game in Madrid? You know what, NFL? I'll give you credit. This is an upgrade. This is an upgrade from the Colts hosting a game in Berlin. The Dolphins, I think, a much better draw, a much better team. Especially if they still have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Tua's healthy. There's much more excitement with the Dolphins. Now, they're hosting this game. They are the designated home team. Now, I got to look at who their home games are. Luckily, the internet's going to help me out here. Here is who Miami is playing at home this season. They obviously are going to play the AFC East, the Bills, Patriots, and Jets. Now, I would be shocked if they put a divisional game over there, so we'll put all those to the side. This is the NFL. This is how you do it, okay? Ravens, Bengals, Saints, Bucks, Chargers, Commanders. That's how you market your game, Roger. Ravens, Dolphins in Madrid. Bengals, Dolphins in Madrid. The Saints we'll just put to the side for a second. Bucks, Dolphins in Madrid. Chargers, Dolphins in Madrid. Commanders, Dolphins in Madrid. Now we're getting somewhere. Tua versus Jaden. Tua versus Herbert. Tua versus Baker. Tua versus Joe Burrow. Tua versus Lamar. Now we're talking. You got two marquee quarterbacks. You got two teams, a bunch of AFC teams on this list. Now we're talking. Not the Colts hosting a game in Berlin. This is a football game I can get behind. This is a lot better. It's not perfect, but this is better. Especially if you pick the right home game. If you pick Ravens, Bengals, Chargers, Commanders, man, of those games, those are some good matchups as long as Tua is healthy, as long as the other quarterbacks are healthy. You got some great quarterback matchups. You got some AFC rivals, Ravens, Dolphins, Ravens, Bengals, Ravens, Chargers. All those games could have AFC playoff implications. You have got some good matchups there. This a lot better than the Colts because we read you the Colts schedule. What was it, yesterday? There's nothing. There's not a single game on there that you're interested in. Not a single one. So this is a good move by the NFL. Good job putting the Dolphins in Madrid because that's a great home schedule. I don't know if we've talked about this yet on the show, but it's become a big deal, and there has been some reporting on this, so feels like the place that we can do this, especially since it's the leftovers. But there's been a lot of back and forth about Tom Brady and his role with Fox Sports being a broadcaster. And there's been a lot of conversation as it appears he is exerting more influence in his minority ownership role with the Las Vegas Raiders. He has appeared to be a part of this process for a general manager, for a coach. He looked to be extremely instrumental in getting Ben Johnson to take an interview with the Las Vegas Raiders. And there are some people that have some concerns with that. They believe there are some conflicts of interest, especially because Tom Brady is calling the Lions game on, was it Saturday? And he already has limitations set on him, right? He can't go to practice. He can't talk to the coaches. He can't criticize the officials. Those are limitations that are put on him as an owner and now also as a broadcaster. But now on top of that, and I originally wasn't really that upset about this because like everybody knows it going in. Everybody knows that Tom Brady that he has this conflict of interest, that he has these biases, right? That they're all out there playing in center. But then I was thinking to myself, he has the Lions game on Sunday. He wants Ben Johnson to interview for the Raiders. He wants the Raiders to hire Ben Johnson. So he's not going to say anything bad about Ben Johnson. So if there's a bad play call in a game, he's not going to criticize the bad play call. He's not going to criticize a poor route that is run because he doesn't want Ben Johnson to all of a sudden think that his boss is an injury. So it's now going to neuter what the broadcast can be. And that's where now it becomes a problem. Truthfully, criticizing the officials, I don't think I need to see Tom Brady criticize the officials. But you know what? If he wants to break down a play that the Lions run, I now in the back of my mind am going to think, is he really breaking down this play to the full extent? Is he really saying what he truly feels? And the moment you do that, you now potentially lose people's interest in the game. And you're paying him $35 million a year or whatever it is, $37 million a year to be a broadcaster. You're paying him all this money, and now you're not getting true to form broadcasting. So I originally didn't think this was a big deal, but now I can kind of see what people are saying. Well, His agent told the Sports Business Journal yesterday that Tom Brady has no plans to leave Fox Sports. He has no plans of leaving the booth, that he plans on seeing out the entire duration of that 10-year contract. So when you watch this Sunday, I mean, Brady signed a 10-year, $375 million contract with Fox back in 2022. He's not going anywhere. Unless the NFL makes him, unless Fox Sports has an issue with it. And if you're Fox Sports, you probably like this. We're talking about you. We're talking about Tom Brady being on the broadcast, and people are now going to try to tune in. So they might not necessarily be all that against this at this point. But he is going to call the game on Sunday. Commanders, Lions, and Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, two coordinators, have both interviewed for the head coaching job. So are you going to criticize those guys during the game? It's kind of the issue. Another piece of sports business news, maybe we'll make this the last story. Well, it depends on how long we go with it, but LeBron James business manager, Maverick Carter, has been tapped as an advisor for a group of investors seeking to raise $5 billion to form an international basketball league that will serve as a rival to the NBA. So this group has got private equity in it. They are looking to form a league that would have 6 men's teams and 6 women's teams, and they would play games around the world. Now, LeBron James reportedly is not involved in this new league, this new effort, but the investment group is looking to tap private equity, sovereign wealth funds. They are looking to raise $5 billion, and this would be a 5-on-5 league. This would be the first significant rival to the NBA since the 1970s with the ABA. Now, let's face it. Are you really a rival to the NBA? You can throw $5 billion around, but are you really a rival to the NBA? You need the talent. You need the players. So unless all of a sudden you are going to do, and this is the comparison that I will make, and people didn't really care about it in this sport because the population that cares about this sport is, in terms of a numerical value, smaller than NBA fans or hockey fans or baseball fans or football fans. But this is what Live Golf was. Live Golf was a startup golf league that changed things, did things differently. They weren't a true rival to the PGA, but they had money. They had endless pools of resources. And you know what they did? They were able to throw that money at some of the biggest names in the game, and they got them over to Live. So if they're able to do something similar with this, because you've got 6 teams, all right, you're going to play a lot of the same opponents, and it's not really the NBA, but if you can land NBA talent, if you can throw more money than these NBA contracts at players to get them over there, if you land a superstar, now listen, I don't think LeBron James or Giannis or any of the big names, but if you get a somewhat superstar to defect, and you pay him a ton of money, you pay him maybe a little bit more than what he would be getting paid in the NBA, you make it worth his while, then you start to get superstar players to defect, and maybe you have a rival on your hands. Maybe you have a rivalry. But you've got 6 teams. You're going to play these games all around the world. So there's going to be time zone issues. What's the structure look like? What are the rules, right? Live has some different rules. It's more laid back, more casual. It's the team environment, right? They have some different rules. It's only 3 rounds instead of 4 rounds. They have different quirks to their game. What are the quirks to this going to be? So I know people are trying to position this as a rival to the NBA. And again, you got people that are going to throw around $5 billion with a B in terms of money around. Could be something. But I only think it becomes something if you land top talent. And until I see top talent go the way we saw it in the PGA, defect over to the Live Tour, unless we see that, then this just feels like a vanity project. It feels like, the big 3, right? These other upstart leagues that aren't real true competitors. You want to be a true competitor, you got to get the talent. You got to land the superstars. And you have to make those 6 teams filled with quality NBA players, right? The UFL, the XFL, the AAF, all those spring leagues, they were not true rivals to the NFL. Why? Because they didn't get top-tier NFL talent. Now, some of those players went on to get NFL jobs, but the quarterback play was not NFL caliber. The play overall wasn't NFL caliber. It was not a true rival. It was just something in the spring when we wanted more football that's what we turned to, right? It was not a true rivalry. This feels, at least as of this moment, until I see what it looks like, until you see the structure of it, until you see how the talent is put together, This feels like it's going to be more of a UFL, XFL, AAF situation than it is going to be a true competitor like LIV is to the PGA. Are they still merging? Are they still PGA, LIV? Or they were having a merger and then it was called off and then they were still talking about it? I don't even know anymore. I don't think they merged. But $5 billion, and they are bringing in Maverick Carter to help advise them on what to do. But LeBron James not involved. And this is potentially the first significant rival for the NBA since the 1970s with the ABA. So just something to file away. Just something to keep an eye on. And again, the LIV PGA comparison is the one that I point to because that's what made it hurt for the PGA, is that you had players that then couldn't participate in majors. You had players that were not on tour every single week, the big names that people are drawn towards. If this upstart league is able to get off the ground and they're able to attract the talent the way LIV was able to grab talent from the PGA, then maybe you have something. Maybe. That's just the first step. That's just the first milestone you need to achieve to maybe get people interested in something other than the NBA. So no, I'm not willing to call this a true rival. I got to see a lot more before I get on board with this. A fun week of shows. We appreciate you being here. Appreciate you joining us all throughout the week. Enjoy the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Enjoy your weekend. Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. We are back here on Monday. You've got Jim Rome next. Producer Dylan, thank you for all that you do. Everybody, make it a great rest of your Friday. Make it a great weekend. Talk to you on Monday. See ya.